The wind has teeth. It bites through the worn animal hides, gnawing at the very marrow of their bones. Kale leads his people, a ragged column of 30 souls, through a landscape of grey rock and skeletal trees. Behind them, their ancestral valley is lost, its warmth and gain now the territory of a new god, a deep throatery of a new god, a deep-throated roaring tyrant. They call it the Great Ripper, a bull allosaurus with a scar across its snout and an unquenchable fury. They did not fight it. Now they are refugees in their own world, and the first snows of the coming ice are beginning to dust the high peaks. Winter is a slow-motion predator, and they have nowhere to hide. The children are the worst. Their small, shivering bodies are a constant, silent accusation. To have already been lost to the cold on this desperate exodus. Kale's son Bren huddles against his mother, his face pinched and blue. This is the brutal reality of their existence in this Pleistocene epoch. Safety is a temporary illusion, a warm spot by the fire that can be stolen in a single bloody afternoon. Their journey is a bleak chapter in the unwritten history of Hominid Neanderthalensis, a testament to the fragility of their grip on life. Two scouts, young men with the lean, haunted look of all the hunters, come loping back from the ridge. There is no food, but there is something else in their eyes. Hope. A cave, one of them gasps, his breath plumbing in the frigid air, high in the rocks. A good one. It is more than good. It is a fortress. The entrance is a dark, yawning mouth 20 feet up a sheer rock face, accessible only by a narrow, easily defended ledge. Below, a small stream, not yet frozen, offers a source of water. It is a promise of salvation, a bastion against the winter and the roaming carnivores. A wave of relief so powerful, it is almost painful washes over the clan. They have been saved. Kale leads a small party of hunters, their stone-tipped spears held ready, up the treacherous path to their new home. The stink hits them first. It is not the familiar smell of damp rock and earth. It is a sharp, acrid reek, a living stench that claws at the throat and makes the eyes water. They press on into the vast, cathedral-like gloom. And they see the source. The ceiling is not rock, it is a shifting, murmuring carpet of black fur. Tens of thousands of bats, a living ceiling that ripples and squeaks in the torchlight. And the floor is covered in a thick, dusty carpet of their droppings. A mountain of black-brown powder accumulated over 1,000 years. Guano. A man behind Kale coughs, a dry, racking sound. Then another, the air is thick burning. It feels like breathing in fire and dust. Kale takes a deep, shuddering breath and his lungs seize. It is an agony beyond pain, a feeling of being strangled from the inside out. He stumbles back, his vision swimming, his chest a knot of fire. They all do, scrambling and gasping, driven out of the perfect shelter by an invisible enemy they cannot spear. They collapse onto the ledge, gulping at the clean, cold air, their throats raw, their eyes streaming. Below, the clan looks up, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. From the valley, the distant, triumphant roar of the Allosaurus echoes off the cliffs. Kale looks at the poison cave, then at his shivering people, trapped between the winter's teeth and the devil's breath. Desperation is a cruel inventor. For 2 days they huddle under a miserable lean-to at the base of the cliff, the biting wind a constant torment. The cold claims another elder, a quiet passing in the night that feels less like a death and more like a surrender. Kale watches the dark mouth of the cave above, a black, mocking promise of warmth. They have tried, 3 more times. The strongest hunters have attempted to enter, to push past the burning air. Each attempt is shorter than the last, ending with the men staggering out, vomiting and gasping, their lungs screaming in protest. The invisible poison, the gas of concentrated ammonia rising from the guano floor, is an absolute barrier. Rory C., a pragmatic hunter whose face is a roadmap of scars, throws his spear down in disgust. It is a cursed place, he growls, his voice raspy from the fumes. The air is the mountain's spirit, and it does not want us. We must move on. Move where? A woman snaps back, her voice thin with exhaustion as she pulls a hide tighter around her child, to die in the snow. There is nowhere else to go. The clan is fracturing, the raw suffering of their plight grinding away at the bonds of community. It is Alora, a young woman, barely more than a girl, who sees the clue. She is not a hunter, but an observer. She watches Bren, Kayle's son, who has been crying, his face wet with tears and mucus. When a gust of wind carries a faint trace of the cave's stench down the cliff face, Bren buries his wet face into the damp fur of his mother's cloak. He stops scoffing, his choked gasp cease. It is a tiny thing, a fleeting moment, but Alora's mind, honed by a lifetime of noticing the small details that mean the difference between life and death, makes the connection. She says nothing. Instead, she takes a small square of rutted hide and soaks it in the icy stream. She wrings it out, and then, before anyone can stop her, she scrambles up the narrow path to the cave. The hunters shout for her to come back, that it is madness. Kel starts after her, his heart lurching with a new terror. At the entrance, Elora pauses. She takes a deep breath of the clean air, then presses the dripping hide firmly over her nose and mouth. The clan watches in stunned silence. 1 heartbeat, 2, 5, 10. A lifetime. Rory C. is already shaking his head, mourning another loss. But then she emerges. She is not gasping. Her eyes are red and watering, but she is breathing. She pulls the hide away from her face, her chest heaving. It works, she whispers, the words barely audible. The water catches the poison. It is a staggering leap of intelligence, the birth of an idea that will save them all, the application of a known substance to solve an entirely new problem. This is the emotional turning point. The despair that had settled over them like a shroud begins to lift, replaced by a frantic, desperate energy. They are not warriors fighting a beast of flesh and blood. They are becoming something more, a species learning to fight its environment with intellect. They tear hides into squares. They soak them in the stream. Kale looks at Alora, this quiet girl who has just stolen a breath from a poison mouth, and he feels a flicker of an emotion he had thought long dead. Hope. He presses his own wet hide to his face. It smells of wet fur and cold stone, and it is the sweetest smell in the world. The battle for the cave begins in earnest. It is not a battle of spears and fury, but of endurance and agonizingly slow progress. They are fighting for air, for every single breath. Working in relays, teams of 3 enter the cave, their faces masked by the dripping hides. They can only stay inside for a few minutes before the burning in their eyes becomes unbearable and the poison begins to seep past their primitive respirators. They emerge, blinking and coughing, their faces pale, and another team takes their place, a grim, silent exchange of suffering. This is the very definition of community, of shared hardship for a collective goal. Their first task is to clear a path. Using broad pieces of slate as shovels, they begin the Sisyphean task of moving the mountain of guano. They do not try to move it all. They carve a narrow trench from the entrance towards the deeper, higher silent part of the main cavern. Each load is a victory, a shovel fuel of poison cast out onto the ledge to be scattered by the wind. They work with a desperate, silent intensity. The only sounds the scrape of stone on stone and the muffled coughing from behind the masks. An older hunter collapses, his lungs finally giving out. They drag him into the clean air, but it is too late. His death is not a shock, but a tax, the price of their new home. His sacrifice, a form of unwilling altruism, hardens their resolve. Kyle and Delara work out a new strategy. The poison is heavy, it settles. But what if they could lift it? What if they could give it a reason to leave? Fire. It is a radical, dangerous idea. A fire inside the cave could consume what little good air they have, suffocating them all. But Kale, watching the way the smoke from their meager fire outside is whipped away by the wind, sees the logic. A great fire would create a great wind of its own, an updraft that could act as a chimney, pulling the toxic air up and out of the vast cavern. It is a gamble based on a deep, intuitive understanding of the physics of their world. Now their work has a new purpose. They are not just clearing a path. They are building a pyre, The relays become more frantic. They haul wood from the sparse forest below, a precious resource that costs them precious energy. They pile it in the center of the main cavern, a huge, chaotic mound of branches and logs. It takes a full day of grueling, long-searing labor. Finally, as the purple twilight of the Pleistocene evening descends, it is ready. Kale takes the torch. He and two others, their faces triple-wrapped in wet hides, enter the cave one last time. The air is thick with a palpable menace. Kale thrusts the torch into the base of the woodpile. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a small flame catches, licks at a dry branch, and with a hushing roar, the pyre erupts. A column of flame and smoke surges towards the ceiling, so vast and bright it illuminates every corner of the cavern, revealing the true, terrifying scale of the bat colony above. The roar of the fire is joined by the high-pitched shrieking of a million disturbed creatures. The air churns, a violent, boiling vortex of heat, smoke, and poison. The men stumble back, driven by the ferocious heat. On the ledge, the entire clan watches, their faces lit by the hellish orange glow from within. They wait, not knowing if they have built their salvation or their tomb. Slowly, miraculously, the tide turns. The fire's updraft acts as a colossal lung, inhaling the toxic air and exhaling it as smoke through the high mouth of the cave. A clean, cold draft begins to pull in from the entrance, a river of fresh air flowing past their ankles. The acrid stench thins, replaced by the clean, sharp smell of burning pine. By morning, the great fire has become a mountain of glowing embers, and the air inside the cave is breathable. It is thin, smoky, but it is clean. They have taken a poisoned, uninhabitable piece of rock and, through sheer grit and a spark of brilliance, transformed it into a fortress. This is the essence of primitive technology, not just the shaping of stone, but the shaping of the world itself. As they move their children and their meager belongings into the echoing warmth of their new home, they are no longer refugees. They are survivors, pioneers who have learned not just to fight the monsters of their world, but to tame its very breath. This is the enduring spirit of our ancestors, to face a world that is actively hostile, and to not just survive it, but to remake it, one stolen breath at a time. And from the deepest, unexplored passages of the cave, a low, guttural growl echoes, a sound that has nothing to do with bats.